Hello and welcome to Booking Through Life. I'm Mary, and today I'm going to do another check-in. This was supposed to be the second week check-in, but it's the second and third week check-in, and I'm not quite sure. Well, I might finish one more book before the end of the month. Anyway, so let's look at what I finished so far. So sorry about that. The last time I made a check-in, I was in the middle of the Northanger Abbey, and that was a group read. And it was taking me a long time to read it because I was reading the Marvel comic graphic novel or comics. It was originally five comic books. This is number 4 out of 5, but then they bound them all together so you can get a bind up of all of them. And I got this, which was only 4 or 5. And so I was able to check out the whole bind up from my library, but then I was reading it on my phone, and it was really difficult to, well, it wasn't difficult, but I didn't find it satisfying to have to move around the screen to find what little bubble I was on, and then to find the text. And then, so for whatever reason, that just kind of slowed me down. But then when I got to this section, then I enjoyed it much more. And I have to say, I highly recommend these. They definitely give all the important details of Northanger Abbey, but then you kind of skip some of the lesser important details, I guess. And it's got nice visuals, and it was just really, really fun. And I read the full book last year, so I read this comic book version this year and really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward. I have Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, and hopefully at some point I will have all of the Marvel comic versions, and I look forward to reading those. All right, so then I'm continuing to read a devotion a day from the Jane Austen devotional that's compiled and compiled and written by Stephanie Woolsey. And I really am enjoying these. They're not incredibly deep or in-depth, but it just gives you a nice little something to reflect on, something positive to reflect on, maybe something challenging, maybe that I need to look at in my own life, and things I can actually go deeper if I choose. So really, really good. I'll probably only be doing one more of these, and maybe I'll pick them back up in August when I get back from vacation. We're going overseas, so I'm just not taking a whole lot of hardback books with me. Then the next book I was in the middle of reading, and this is why I probably haven't read that much this month, is because I was reading this massive chunker, The Year in Between by Christina Moreland, and I've talked about this before. It's kind of a variation of Sense and Sensibility, and it's what this woman imagines happened between there's this Jane Austen skips from when Eleanor and Edward get married to when Marianne and Colonel Brandon get married, and there's a whole year. And so she imagines what may have happened in that year. And I have to say, when I was up to chapter 14 or 15, and I really loved this book. I thought I loved the deep dive it was going into Marianne and Brandon's relationship. I believe it really helped me to become more interested in Sense and Sensibility. It's typically been on the bottom of my Jane Austen list. I've always thought Brandon was kind of an old, creepy guy, although he was only like 35. So he's younger than I am now. But Marianne was 17. So, and especially for us modern people, that's like really distasteful. And he just fell in love with her, and kind of nothing was going to stop him. And then I hope this isn't a spoiler. If it is, skip ahead. And so when Marianne got sick and and married him anyway. And I know it says she grew to love him, but I just thought, yuck, poor Mary Ann. She got stuck with somebody for whom she wasn't initially attracted to. I mean, I guess initially there may have been a little bit something there. He appreciated music, particularly the music she was playing. But anyway, so I really love the dialogue. I love that deep dive. They did have Eleanor and Edward having a lot of interaction with their maids and their cooks, which probably isn't realistic. Although I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, I wonder if smaller homes, because they had a small parsonage, I wonder if there is a little bit more intermingling with the help when your home is a little bit smaller, and you probably can't help but know a little bit more about each other. Anyway, so I was enjoying that quite a bit. But then the book, although there's no open bedroom scenes, it's very spicy. She very much knows how to write kind of the build up to either, Mary Ann and Brandon were, they didn't consummate their relationship before their marriage, but there was a lot of build up. And so there was just a few scenes that I wasn't quite comfortable or happy with. And then there's a situation with Eleanor, and I'm not going to say what it is, but once you start reading it, you think, unless she's really just rewriting the end of Sense and Sensibility, something really hard is pending, and it happens, and it was quite hard to read. And so I wasn't crazy about that. And then I just found the end to be very unsatisfactory, the way she, just the way she had Mary Ann and Colonel Brandon interacting in the end. So I'm giving it a 3, maybe a 3+, because it was really, really good for the first 14 chapters. It was way too long for me. But I will say it did help me to appreciate Sense and Sensibility more. So for that, I am very grateful. But yeah, this is like the third book that had like such a good start. Like half of the book was just a 5-star, and I thought, we're on our way to a 5-star, and then kind of, for me, it tanked. That was the third one that kind of tanked. And I was reading that and discussing it on Voxer with a group of 4 other ladies, and I really enjoyed that. And my other discussion on Voxer with Art at Art's Bookshelf Odyssey, we discussed and read together The Particular Charm of Miss Jane Austen by Ada Bright and Cass Grafton. Art kind of helped me learn how to use the audio portion and how to send it. And so I was able to fully use Voxer, which was quite nice. And so I did finish this book that I buddy read with Art. And this is a time-traveling Jane Austen. We have the setting is Bath, and we have Rose, and she's a young woman. She might be close to 30 or in her 30s, and she helps rent out kind of like Airbnbs or rental properties, especially for people during Jane Austen July or Jane Austen Festival in Bath. And she has a friend. She and her friend Morgan is from the United States, and they met on like chat, like fan chat. I can't think of the word. Chats. Anyway, and so they're meeting for the first time for this Jane Austen Festival. Morgan's coming to Bath. Her father, she works for her father, and he wants her to come and check out England, and so she and Rose are super excited to meet each other in person because they're best friends, and they're going to celebrate Jane Austen. And then Meanwhile, Rose is starting to notice this woman who is very accurate in her Austen costume, and she's even thinking it looks like it's frayed a little bit. Like this gal's really going for some authenticity, and she keeps bumping into her. And finally, she confronts her, and it ends up she finds out it is, in fact, Jane Austen, and she's been time traveling. She's got this portal, this method of getting back and forth, and she's got a way to write letters and put it in this safe, and then somehow it transports to Cassandra, so she and Cassandra are able to communicate when Jane is in modern day times. And something happens, and she's unable to go through her portal anymore, and she's stuck in modern day times. And so it's kind of a race. It ends up kind of being a little bit of a mystery to solve how to get Jane back, and is Jane stuck, and how they can get her back, because Jane is from 1803, and this is before she's written her novels. So Rose is like, what if I have to live in a world where Jane Austen's novels do not exist, and what that meant for her, and all the ramifications. And so it's really quite an intriguing story. It's really sweet. There's a couple of romances that are really sweet and really cozy. No steam. Art told me he had, I don't know if he read something in the book or if he looked at their website or what, but he had learned that Ada and Cass, their relationship mirrors Rose and Morgan's. They met on like a Jane Austen or Harry Potter chat place, and became friends. And one's English and one's American. So that was kind of a cool thing too. And I think they dedicated it to themselves. I think it's dedicated to their friendship. We dedicate this book to our friendship. So that's kind of sweet too. Super good. I give this a 4. It was really, really good. The next book I finished was The Late Mrs. Willoughby by Claudia Gray. And I was really looking forward to this. This is now subtitled A Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney Mystery. So it's Mr. Jonathan Darcy, who is the son of Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, and then Juliet Tilney is Catherine and Henry Tilney's daughter, and they were the amateur sleuths in Who Killed Mr. Wickham, and they returned to find out who killed Mrs. Willoughby. And I gave this one a 3. It was okay. Maybe I had it hyped up in my head too much, and so it was a little disappointing. But I just felt like the murder mystery, I figured out who did it. I mean, I wasn't 100% sure, but I'm like, I bet this is going to go this way, and it did. They just, not a whole lot happens. They wonder who, there's a few people who may have targeted Mrs. Willoughby. Then it's like, are we sure that it was Mrs. Willoughby, and maybe it was Mr. Willoughby who was meant to be killed? Maybe they were both meant to be killed. And so they kind of go around in their thinking, but they don't really, nothing really happens. And of course, Marianne, so it's Juliet is visiting Marianne and Colonel Brandon's estate, and Mr. Darcy, as the story goes, went to school with Mr. Willoughby, and Willoughby used to tease Mr. Darcy because Jonathan Darcy, because they don't come out and say it because he wouldn't have had a diagnosis, but he seems like he's on the autism spectrum. And he has a lot of quirkiness, and Juliet seems to really not care about those things and really understand those things. And she's kind of grappling with her feelings for Mr. Darcy, and Jonathan Darcy is kind of trying to figure out, what he feels like even about marriage and physical touch and all sorts of things. So in that aspect, it's I don't know. I think that's well done, and that's a kind of a cool aspect. It just was a little slow and a little, like I said, I wouldn't quite say it was boring, but it just wasn't super exciting. So anyway, but I'm glad I read it, and there's hints that there's another book, so I definitely will continue with the series. I got to find out what happens between Juliet and Jonathan. And so those are the books that I finished. And oh my goodness, I didn't bring all my DVDs, but if you watched my previous movie, you will see all my DVDs. So I'm just going to mention them. I'm not even going to do a floating DVD cover. I watched Bride and Prejudice, which is very colorful, very good. I love that one. I watched Pride and Prejudice, a modern, a latter day comedy, which is quirky and fun. I watched Mr. Colin Firth, Pride and Prejudice, Colin Firth and Jennifer Eales, and I hadn't watched that one for a while. I usually watch the Matthew Macfadyen one because it's not as big of a commitment, and I just think it is absolutely gorgeous. It's like one of my top movies ever. And so anyway, with the Colin Firth one, which I did watch that one as well, but with the Colin Firth one, I'd forgotten how beautiful that one was and how great the acting was. So that was kind of a surprise that, I'm usually I'm always defending my love of the Keira Knightley, Matthew Macfadyen version, that I'd forgotten how wonderful that version was. I also watched the Greer Garson and Laurence Olivier Pride and Prejudice. That's the 1940 version with the puffy sleeves and the alternate ending, alternate ending for some of the characters. I also watched the 1980 or 85 BBC TV series, which is like six different episodes, and I like that one. Mr. Darcy, as I've said before, is like a wax figure, but everybody else does a pretty good job. And I watched Ms. Bennet, Pride and Prejudice, or Becoming Ms. Bennet, Pride and Prejudice, and that's like a Hallmarky type Pride and Prejudice, which is kind of mediocre, 3 stars. So I think those are all the ones that I watched. So I was busy watching Pride and Prejudice adaptations. I didn't get through all of them like I wanted. I've just been busy getting ready for this vacation we're going on tomorrow. And so what do you do? That's what happened, but I was still able to make a video. So yay me. And then I also had some girlfriends over and we played the Barbie game, which is super fun. And we played Marrying Mr. Darcy game. And I just had gotten that. I don't have it because I loaned it to one of my friends. I'll get it back after we get back from vacation. But that was my first time playing it, and it was so much fun. And I won. I was Lydia, and I married my perfect match, which was actually Mr. Denny. In this game, if you marry Mr. Wickham, you are most likely to end up being a spinster. So anyway, it was super fun. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend getting your hands on it and playing it. And so I think that's it for what I've been doing so far. I'm reading Sense and Sensibility right now. I'm really enjoying this copy of it. I'm going to have to leave it at home, and I'll either finish it on this copy because it's nice and thin and light, or I'll see if it's on Kindle and read it on my Kindle. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to get anything else done. I'm very sad. I did not play cards with my Jane Austen cards yet, and I did not play my match game, which has it's a memory game, matchmaking memory game. And so when I get home, I'm going to have to do some Jane Austen activities. It'll be Austen August, among other things. Anyway, that's it. That's my wrap up. I might wrap up my Sense and Sensibility, and I'll let you know how my reread of that was and if I like it more, or if I like it the same as I did before I read The Year in Between. I will probably be doing that either from England in the airport, at the Heathrow Airport, or in Norway. So anyway, I hope that I get to see you while I'm in Norway, or you get to see me while I'm in Norway. Until then, I hope all your books are good books. Oh, and just finally, I wanted to say, oh, I don't remember everybody's name. I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you for watching till the end. And these lovely ladies all receive or are going to receive a book from me. And we have Katie, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say their first names. We have Katie, we have Cammie, and we have Carrie, and Katie, and Michelle. So thank you all for, like I said, watching to the end. And I hope that you have gotten your books. Michelle, I think you probably won't get your book for another month. But yeah, hopefully it will come at the right time. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting and subscribing and liking and commenting. Feel free to comment I'd really love to know if you've read The Year in Between and what you thought about it. If you like a time traveling Jane Austen, I have another one up here. I don't know if I'll get to it or not. But anyway, until next time, I hope all your books are good books. And let's do a little applause. All right. See you later. Bye.